I apologize to my subscribers and people that are interested in what was going on and is going on in Flint. I haven't made any videos recently regarding the excuse me, Flint water crisis because there really hasn't been a whole lot of information available. And unfortunately, like most people, I haven't stayed as focused on this issue as I should have. And I will have to admit that because of where the government is at this point in time in helping to resolve this problem, there probably will not be a lot of focus on this issue going forward. My only hope is that Karen Weaver, the mayor of Flint, continues to press this point in order to benefit the people of Flint, Michigan. Here is the latest information that has been published on News One Now regarding where the people of Flint, Michigan are.
We have an update on the Flint water crisis. Federal agencies involved in the investigation say that filtered water in that city is now safe to drink. The Environmental Protection Agency, in conjunction with the Centers for Disease Control, along with local and state agencies, released a statement saying, in part, the use of NSF-verified filters makes water safe from lead for all populations. Pregnant and nursing women and children no longer need to drink bottled water to avoid lead exposure as long as they drink water that has passed through a filter rated to remove lead from drinking water. However, Flint Mayor Karen Weaver says that some homes have faucets where filters do not fit. Thus, bottled water is still needed in some homes. So what's going on? I'm going to talk about this with our panel. Still on the panel is Will Jawando, former Obama White House official, Lauren Victoria Burke, managing editor of Politico 365, and Deanna Caldwell, Republican strategist of Caldwell Strategic Consulting. So what's going on in Flint, you guys? Are we past the storm, or are they still facing some challenges that still have to be overcome?
The storm is still here. Anytime, I mean, really, they say, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but bottled water in Flint was going for about $10 for one bottle of water.
Oh my God.
People are suffering here. This is like a very poor town. And the fact that they're saying, oh, you know, we're good to go, we got these filters, I don't think it's sufficient. I think that they really need to do something to reimburse these folks who have spent countless dollars, these folks that have been harmed by this poisonous water. They need to make sure that there's some way where these people are being compensated, because there was obviously negligence by the state and local officials, including the federal government, for that matter.
Every level of government.
Yeah, I mean, look, a couple things happening here. One, you know, my church, we just did another drive and went down to Flint, so there's still people struggling. They still need water, and they're understandably scared to drink out of their faucets and out of their homes because of they've been lied to before. Right. The governor still needs to resign. I mean, this is if anyone else would have done this in any other state, I mean, they would have had his head on a platter. And it was a failure of government at all levels. I will say the EPA has come in and really stepped up, from all reports I've heard, to really try to reassure people. They're going to do a lot of sessions with people to show how the water's, you know, I think we might need to get President Obama out drinking another cup. You know, because it you know, that scare, that fear is real when you're seeing, you know, yellow, purple water. But I think you know, we have to hold people accountable, and that starts at the top, I think, with the government.
But what's going on in Congress? I mean, Lauren, still we have a Congress that is supposed to be doing something about this, and it's been blocked time after time. What's happening?
Yeah.
All right, I'll tell you what's happening. Mike Lee, senator from Utah. And I'm going to do a video on him, an interview that he did with MSNBC today. But Mike Lee is the one that is personally blocking funds that would, federal funds that would go into Flint, Michigan, in order to alleviate the suffering of the people of Flint.
Well, it was blocked. The money was blocked to help Flint by Senator Mike Lee, who I walked up to in the hallway and asked about this, and he don't want to talk about it because he doesn't do hallway interviews. So Congress, as usual,
didn't do his job either, apparently.
Well, I think he views his job as, cutting anything that would be any sort of budget allocation, even if it's for American citizens. But I mean, I think the primary problem with this is that it was never really raised to the level of importance and national attention that it should have in the first place. Frankly, I think that the president should have used his bully pulpit a lot earlier to do that, because this is a group of Americans in an American city having a problem that they shouldn't be having with a basic need, which of course is water. There's all this sort of shrugging of the shoulders on the federal level about, well, this is a local crisis, so we shouldn't say anything about it, which I think is completely wrong. Yeah. We allocate money all the time for other countries, for things that are going on in other countries, and when it comes to Americans here, and this is why I think Donald Trump's message has some currency. You know, if you start hammering home a message of taking care of Americans first and focus on America, you're going to get a lot of attention, because we've just had about 8 years of, every other person someplace else being a priority except the people here. So I think the White House made a mistake by not making it a priority.
But it's hard for him to make that argument when his own party is holding up funding to address the issue.
What do you mean? Hard for Trump? I don't think it was hard for the president. Trump is a political candidate. I'm not expecting a hell of a lot out of him. I'm expecting something out of the president, though.
Absolutely.
I mean, and if we really want to look at it, he has used executive order after executive order to reallocate funds for everything, right? The Syrian refugees, he's allocated funding for those folks that are coming here for job training programs and all these other things. Wouldn't that money be better spent on the south and west sides of Chicago? Yes. Wouldn't that money be better spent in Flint, Michigan? Yes. Wouldn't it? Okay.
Gotta wrap up.
Okay.
Gotta wrap.
All right. So again, the Flint, Michigan water crisis is pretty much, if not being swept under the rug, being forgotten. My question is, if the proper priorities were in place, somebody somewhere should have done something for these people immediately. They obviously need financial relief from all the money they've spent for bottled water, and there has been a hell of a lot of water contributed, but nowhere near the amount of water these people need to live. So they had to come out of their own pockets in order to obtain that water. Number two, they needed some relief because they were still being charged water bills, which, quote unquote, the governor has claimed that they have reduced the amount of their water bills on a monthly basis, but he had not eliminated the amount of water, the amount of money they had to pay for water on a monthly basis. And that was a short-term program, which, if I'm not mistaken, ends in the month of July, and they're going to have to re-up that. Now, based on what is being said here, that the EPA is stating that water coming through the tap with filters is safe to drink, they are probably not going to re-up that program to reduce the water bills of the people in Flint. And again, as was indicated, people were lied to. So now all of a sudden they're supposed to believe the government when they say things are safe to, water is safe to drink. No. They need to absolutely prove it. They need to give people an opportunity to get used to drinking the water out of the tap without having to pay for it as a sign of good faith. So again, if I do come across further information regarding the Flint water crisis, obviously I will make a video to update people, but it's my feeling that once the notification has gone out that it is now safe to drink water that is filtered from the tap, this is really going to go away unless Karen Weaver can keep this in our view. Now, as a further aside, there is obviously racism in this country, and this particular video is going to focus on environmental racism, i.e. there's a lot of lead that is in our drinking water systems, and particularly in communities that are of color. If you weren't aware of it, Freddie Gray suffered from certain disabilities because of the lead that was ingested by him at a very young age. There are a lot of children and young adults that have been exposed to lead that have certain issues. The government's aware of it. The government gives lip service on trying to do something about it. But at the end of the day, very little is actually done unless people go screaming and kicking to their local representatives in order to get situations resolved. This video is going to focus on that particular subject.
This is just another example, I would argue, of environmental racism, and it's one but one. But that's one of the reasons why some are blaming also for the disproportionate impact of high lead levels in tap water in predominantly black communities all over the country, not just Flint. According to the Black Family Summit, which is made up of civic, political, and health organizations, that group was here in Washington, D.C. last week to host a town hall to discuss problems that may arise from water contamination if action is not taken immediately.
In our community, some people call this an emergency, others call it a crisis, some call it a disaster, and others would mark it and say put the yellow tape around it because it's a crime scene. Depends on how you frame it, how you categorize it, what resources you get. Because it's not a disaster, there are some federal resources that we're not eligible for. But we are in this for the long haul. Share with you everything everybody feels, but I share with you a perspective of our community. This disaster crisis was framed as a poor, black, underserved, underprivileged African American issue. When in fact, every member of our community, no matter what the socioeconomic status is, no matter what the racial ethnic perspective is, we were all affected.
Joining right now, Dr. Awata Kevin Washington, president of the Association of Black Psychologists, who was a panelist at that particular event. Doc, so when we talk about this, the idea of environmental racism, one, that hasn't often been used in describing Flint, but we also are seeing this all around the country. We're seeing this on playgrounds. We're seeing this where lead levels are appearing in schools. It's all over the place. And a lot of these states don't have required testing to check these lead levels, and that's having an impact on our children.
Right. So all over the country, this is happening, of course, in your home area. In around Houston, there was an area that had a playground that had a lot of lead and other chemicals in it. We must be clear that it's not just simply the lead that was in the pipes that's the problem in this space, but also the idea of the toxic water that actually exacerbated the lead inside the thing. So it's two issues. I mean, inside of the pipes, it's two issues. One is, of course, the lead, but also the arsenic and other chemicals that are inside of the water. And that begins to be, that's the idea of environmental racism. Also, you know about the zone between Beaumont, Texas and Louisiana, called the Cancer Alley, with the environmental racism dynamics there, and also in Brownsville, Texas. So this is a continuing process. And so this town hall meeting was about looking at the dynamics of benign neglect on a community and imposing one's will to determine how they should retrieve the most vital element that humans need, which is water, right? So,
and I think what people also, and we're seeing this with Flint, the fact that they're going to have to study these children, monitor them for the next 20 plus years, and even not only the kids who are alive today, but any child that is born. We've even seen some mothers lose their children as a result of this contamination.
Yes, because, and so that was one of the discussions yesterday about what should happen, what should take place. And so testing for perpetuity, right, for their entire lives should be done. Not only does lead cause problems with cognitive development, but which then means then that if a child is not able to think in a certain way, then they cannot learn in school, which means that their pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness has been thwarted. Therefore, their inalienable right of being a citizen has also been denied. So it is genocidal act on multiple levels.
What's next in terms of what are you calling on folks watching and listening to do on this very issue?
So the next is that how do we begin to talk about enacting an office of environmental justice in every state, right? That was part of our conversation. How do you engage in the process of making sure that there is justice granted to every individual that receives basic resources of life? How do you justify taking a water supply from one area, Detroit, and then averting it to another area, and then you charge people twice, more than any other water supply in the entire country. All right, and so we talked about the issue of how do societies or communities have resources that are affordable, but also that they are safe.
All right, we'll have to watch, so we appreciate it, and we'll keep raising the banner on this issue.
All right,
thanks a lot.
All right, just so that you are aware, Flint, Michigan is not the only town that faced and continues to face a significant problem of the contamination in the water. Newark, New Jersey has that problem. You have two towns, and I apologize for not having the specific names, but you can do the research for yourself. There are two towns in the state of Louisiana that the water is so toxic that you can set it on fire. All right. And I say environmental racism because in the state of Ohio, there was a small township that began to suffer from lead contamination in their water. Unlike Flint, this problem was discovered within 4 days. Not 4 weeks, not 4 months, not 2 years. The problem was discovered within 4 days. And in the state of Ohio, immediate action was taken to correct the problem, unlike the other towns. Now, what is the difference between that town in Ohio and Flint, Michigan, Newark, New Jersey, and other towns and cities around the country? That particular town was a middle to upper socioeconomic class of people. So when they opened their mouths, the politicians reacted instantaneously. So that is why I say that there is environmental racism, because when the environment of poor minority communities is affected, there is no rush to correct the problem. But let that be a middle to upper class community, and that there aren't enough screams for things to be done. There are not enough resources that can't be applied to fix their problem.